Hi, my name is Stuart J. Murphy. I'm going to stop now for a second and make sure that my screen is live for you all. I'm looking forward to this session with you. And let's see, I think I have to do this. I think I have to go off, and then I think I have to go back on again and share screen, and then hit this, and then, um, oh dear, let's see, um, window, I got it, and then push share. Okay, we should be in good shape now. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here with you today. What a great conference so far. You know, I was looking down the list and I see that there are people on from places like Pakistan and Israel and South Africa and states like Hawaii and Nebraska and Massachusetts. I'm reporting to you from Boston, Massachusetts today, and I'm very happy to be with you. Um, my name is Stuart J. Murphy, and I live in Boston. As I say, I'm a visual learning strategist and author. Some of you may know my books. My books are the Math Start program from HarperCollins, 63 books of real stories for young children that talk about different kinds of mathematical concepts across the curriculum, across the math curriculum, teaching math in the context of stories. My program called I See, I Learn, which is published by Charlesbridge Publishing and is about social, emotional, health and safety, and cognitive skills, again for young children pre-K through grade 1. I'm also an author on Envision Math, which is published by Savas Learning, which was Pearson Education, and a brand new program called 3 Cheers for Pre-K. And both those programs have been doing very well. You may know them already as part of your curriculum. And I'm the visual learning author on both of those programs. My topics of interest that I usually talk about are visual learning. That's my background. That's what I'm all about. I'm a visual learning strategist, and we're going to get into that somewhat today. I can't talk about math without talking about visual learning strategies. Math as a life skill, this is just so important because we have to get out of the mode. We all work hard to do this to make sure that children realize that math is not a school skill. It's a life skill. It's part of how they live and how they communicate, which leads us to communicating about math, drawing about math, and talking about math, and making sure that math is a part of how you bring ideas to other people. I'm a great believer in storytelling in math because stories put math in a context that make math relevant to their lives and show how math is applied to everyday real experiences. Social emotional skills and math, how they relate to math, are part of what I'm about, what I like to speak about. Positive attitudes toward math. We love it. We want to do it. We want to do more of it. And finally, 2 words that some people don't put together, but I do, and that's creativity and mathematics. So you'll see these topics interwoven throughout my talk today. I also just listened to another talk and it's a subject I didn't list here, but that I love, and that is engaging our families in mathematics, engaging families in mathematical education. And that's so very important. So I hope that some of you listened to that. I think it was probably even a keynote, and I hope some of you listened to the program that I was listening to before my program, because there were just so many helpful hints about how to engage families in their children's mathematical education. I'd like to start with a quote, and this quote is very much about what I'm talking about. It's from 2017. It's as relevant now as it was then. It's from a program called, it's from an article called The Beauty of Early Childhood Mathematics. Playful math equals engaged learning. The author is Lisa Hansel. And here's the quote. Most beautiful is the spark in a child's eye when a foundational concept clicks. Let me stop there. A foundational concept in mathematics clicks in her mind. It's beautiful in the moment and in the promise it holds for the future. And of course, that's what we're all about. So the focus of this session will be identifying links between related mathematical topics, connections between mathematical concepts, between mathematical ideas that you can put to work. Because when you put them to work, they set the stage for the foundation for using these links to make understanding leaps in a child's education, leaps to new ideas. And just to make that very clear, I'm going to start with just a very, very simple example. I mean, you see 2 sets here, one set of 6 and one set of 3, and they could be 6 apples and 3 pears. There could be 6 apples and 3 more apples. There could be 6 children and 3 more children. Anything. But 2 sets, one of 6 and one of 3. And of course, to find out how many there are, you can count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or you might take a conceptual leap to a different strategy for addition and count on. You know you've got 6, so why not count on from that 6? It doesn't have to be recounted. 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, if you do that and you figure out how to do that, then it's not long before you realize you have a 6 and a 3, and you can make an equation: 6 plus 3 equals 9. So through these links between addition strategies, we've created 3 leaps: a leap from counting everything to counting on to building an equation. That's what I mean by links and leaps. And we'll see a lot of that today in my presentation. Kathy Coons is a great friend of mine, I must admit, first of all, but she's a great educator. She has a series of books that have ideas for activities for you to use in the classroom. You should have her books in your curriculum, in your library, in your classroom library. But I'm not going to go ahead and talk more about her books. All I want to do is talk about this quote from Kathy that says, all early childhood educators, that's us, all of us, understand that there is so much more to counting, as I just showed you, than reciting the numbers. And it's so true, because a lot of kids skip count by 5s or 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, and don't have that concept in their mind that there are really 10 things with each of those things they're counting. It's not just a bunch of numbers that you recite together because they sound good. There's a conceptual understanding there that is absolutely critical for young children to grasp. Children who experience an early mathematics curriculum develop an understanding behind the counting. That understanding leads to confidence. We want our kids to be confident in mathematics, to joy, the joy of math, to mathematical empowerment. Hey, I can move forward, I can get more done, and success. And that's what we want our kids to be able to have. And so I love that quote from Kathy Coons. Now, more examples of leaps that you all know and that are important. These are all leaps. They're links between ideas, mathematical concepts that all lead to the leap toward multiplication. There's doubling, of course. If you've got 3 something and you double those, then you've got 6. If you've got 4 something and you double those, you've got 8. Or skip counting, which is another lead into that leap toward multiplication, counting by 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 10s, 3, 6, 9, 12, etc. And so those are all ideas that lead to multiplication. Using tallies, which is basically counting by 5s, or if you regroup them, counting by 10s, and equal sets. You have 5 people sitting on the table, and they each have 4 things to eat with, and so you've got 5 and so 5 people, and so you get 4, 8. All of a sudden you've got 20 because you've got 5 people. And so all of these ideas that you use in your early math curriculum lead to a better understanding, that great big leap to multiplication. Now, fact families are another way, another basic idea that lead to leaps that are very important for you to understand and to you to help have your children understand, like 5 plus 3 equals 8, so therefore 3 plus 5 must equal 8, and 8 take away 5 is 3, and 8 minus 3 equals 5. And just think of that family and all the families that you can build like that give kids a better sense, a better number sense, and a better idea of how they can use numbers, and that bigger leap to using much more complex and much more difficult numbers in their math and understanding. Now, regrouping is an addition strategy that is regrouping is a real leap, and I think it's an important leap because it takes those links that I'm talking about addition, and goes on to a leap to something new that expands and provides a new understanding for children. Now, I'm going to use my book that's called A Fair Bear Share as I talk about this leap to regrouping. And there's Mama Bear, and she's got 4 bear cubs, as you can easily see on the cover. And there is a great big blueberry pie. So you know something about this story right from the cover. And there's Mama who's talking to her bears. She said to her 4 little cubs, look at all the baskets that she has. She says to her 4 little cubs, if you'll collect enough nuts, berries, and seeds, then tonight I'll bake my special blue ribbon blueberry pie and you'll each get your fair bear share. Well, the cubs went to the forest where there were lots of sweet tasting nuts. 3 of them worked very hard, but the 4th little cub just wanted to play. She climbed trees, she swung from branches, she didn't look for even one nut. Well, the cubs ran home, and Mama decided that she was going to put all the nuts they collected in groups of 10s and put the ones that were left over next to the group so they could add them up quickly. She did that, and you can see the first cub had 11. That's 10 ones and 1 left over. The second club, 14. That's 10 with 4 left over. The third club, 12. That's 10 with 2 left over. And the 4th club didn't have any at all. And you can quickly see that's 37 nuts altogether. They did the same thing picking blueberries. And the 4th little cub did the same thing. All she wanted to do was to play. She skipped and ran. She chased after bees. She didn't pick even one berry. Well, again, they did the same thing, and Mama piled them up in groups of 10s. And you can see that now the first club had 21, so there were 2 groups of 10 with 1 left over. The second club had 15, 1 group of 10 with 5 left over. The third club had 13, and that's 1 10 with 3 left over. And the 4th club didn't have any at all. And so stacked together, you can see that that's 4 10s and 9 berries, or 49 berries in all. Now we go to seeds. Nice crunchy seeds. 3 of them worked very hard, and the 4th club, of course, jumped all around and didn't grab even 1 seed. Again, they ran home and gave Mama Bear their baskets. Again, she counted them up, and she piled up, and she had 23 for the first club, for the first cub, 2 10 with 3 left over. The second had 17, 1 group of 10 with 7 left over. And the third cub had 26, and that's 2 groups of 10 with 6 left over. And of course, the 4th club didn't have any at all. That's 0 seeds. But look what can happen. Look to the right. They could make another 10. They could regroup and make another 10 by pulling up those berries and bring up those seeds and bringing up 10 more up to the top of the line. Suddenly we have 6 10s and 6 seeds, or 66 seeds in all. I'm going to stop here just a second and just point out the value of the visuals to help this understanding, this greater understanding. You can see how they're stacked up. You can see where that other 10 is, and you can see how that other 10 can be dragged over and regrouped so that you can see the 6 10s and 6 seeds rather than the 5 10s and 16 seeds that are shown in the first count. A very, very valuable learning experience for your children. A leap. Well, they looked at what they had, and guess what? They just didn't have enough to make the blue ribbon blueberry pie. And the 3 hardworking cubs just all looked at their little sister, and she just looked sadly down at the floor. And then all of a sudden, she grabbed 3 baskets and hurried out the door. First, she ran to the forest and found lots of nuts. She skipped to the field, picked bunches of blueberries, and raced to the meadow and grabbed every seed that she could. She ran home and proudly gave them to her mama. Mama Bear said, "Now it looks like you've worked hard too. Let's put things in piles by 10s and by 1s and add them to what we already have." Well, they had 37. She had 15 more. That's 4 10s and 12. They can make another 10, 5 10s and 2. That's 52 nuts in all. She emptied the next basket. They had 49 berries. The little cub had 33 more. That's 7 10s and 12. We can make another 10. That's 8 10s and 2, or 82 berries in all. The third basket was empty. They had 66 seeds already. The little cub had 25 more. That's 2 10s and 5 left over. Again, they can make another 10, 9 10s and 1 seed. Hooray, says Mama. Tonight I'll bake my blue ribbon blueberry pie. Well, they finished their dinner, and the little cub smelled wonderful blueberry smells from the oven. Mama Bear said, "I'm so proud of you all for working so hard. The pie is almost ready, and each of you deserves a fair bear share." Well, in came the and soon there was very little left. Just a couple nuts, 1 or 2 berries, a few seeds, and 4 blue bear cub smiles. So that's the end of my story called The Fair Bear Share. And why I wanted to share it with you was to talk about the conceptual leap from counting strategies to regrouping, which is a really important leap for children to be able to make. And at the end of my story, I always include at the end of my books some activities, some things that help you read the story more effectively and go back into the story a little further and go back into the math a little further. And also some activities that have been tried in classrooms and by librarians and teachers that you can put to work for yourself. And 3 books that at the time I published these books were all in print and in libraries. And there are 3 books that add to your classroom library, that you can add to your classroom library as you build books that support these important topics. Now, I think you've heard a little bit about the incredible resources already today that are provided to you by the California Early Math Project. This is the book guide that is provided to you for this very book, A Fair Bear Share. And you can see that on the first page, you start to get lots of help already. A listing of the topics that are included, so you know what's included and what to focus on, and the idea of exploring and using this book to explore the notion of place value, and things to do before you read, while you're reading, and after you read the book. There are also some other helpful hints here. I'll cover those in another case because I have those spread out, but I wanted to give you just a hint at the beginning of the book guide that's available to you as a resource. Now, I want to talk a little bit about stories about math because I told you about why and how I feel that they are very important to expressing math in context and showing the application of math to real world situations. And so this is Kathy again. Young children learn best when they are engaged in meaningful mathematics. Meaningful math, just stop and think there. Meaningful math that connect to their world. Bring that mathematics into your own world experience. Those early math experiences lead to deeper understandings of future mathematical instruction. So they're a stepping stone, leading to understandings of future mathematical instructions. And math stories help to deliver those experiences to young children. So I think they're very important for you to consider as you consider the things that you do, the activities that you present to your children. And this is another book of mine called Double the Ducks. You've seen a little bit of this already today. It's a book about doubling, and I've already mentioned the effectiveness of doubling. It's about a boy who has 5 little ducks, and he says, "My ducks splash and slide, they honk, quack, and glide. It's fun to have 5 little ducks." What I want to point out about this particular spread from that book is the multiple representations of the number 5 and how important those are. They are represented in the 5 ducks that are swimming in the pond in the illustration, having a good time. They're represented in the storyline, 5, the word 5, 5 little ducks. They're represented in those icons that you can easily count, 3, 4, 5, and they're represented in the numeral 5. So you've got 4 different representations of 5 right before you on that one page. Very important because children learn from multiple representations. Some go into one, some go into another. It's just an important way to approach mathematics. And here are 5 ducks. And in the storyline, each of them went for a walk and they brought back a friend. And very carefully, I chose to show the 10 as 2 5s because it's doubling, 2 5s that equal the 10. And so that's a very good kind of representation of the doubling experience for your children. And then here is the other book guide that I said that I would share with you. Again, I've already talked about page 1 of the book guides that bring activities to you that cover the many topics that are included in any one of these stories. And also what to do when you're reading the book itself and after you're done reading the book so that you can really approach this book in the most effective manner. But then they go on, these book guides go on to help you develop daily routines in your teaching and important questions about mathematical thinking and strategies. They also go on to talk about making math connections. And of course, making math connections are the very links that I'm talking about that lead to leaps in this presentation. And so then further, I love this where there's different age level sequences that are important for you to understand, whether you're using this book at the infant level or all the way up at the first grade level. And so those are outlined for you. And then there are activities and things that can happen that you can do with your students, you can give your parents to do. And there are even some helpful things that you can print out so that you can send them home, things that you can cut apart and use as game pieces, further games that you can do, either provide to do in a library at home, in school, wherever you have the opportunity to do that. So I think that's important for you to make a point of looking at the resources that are available to you through the California Early Math Project. And I know this is being talked about elsewhere today, so I know that what I just showed you is reinforcement of those important helpful things that are available to you in your work. Now, I said early on that I'm going to go into that. I'm going to talk more about visual learning today, because I always do. It's part of what I do, and it's part of what I think is important, and it helps to support the main topic of this conversation about the links, the mathematical links that lead to leaps in understanding. And this comes from a paper called Seeing is Understanding, the Importance of Visual Mathematics for Our Brain and Learning. It was published by Stanford University by Joe Bowler and by Dr. Lang Chan. Very important article, very important quote. And the quote that I picked is this one: taking a more visual approach to math instruction at the K through 12 and higher ed levels could dramatically change brain development as it relates to future math success. A visual approach, brain development, math success. And it says K through 12 and higher ed. It goes on beyond higher ed to all of adult life, and it goes earlier than K to pre-K. It's a part of how we better understand math, how we get kids to see the math, to understand what's really going on in that mathematical topic so that they can better understand the concepts behind it. Now, this is another friend of mine, Randy Charles. I've worked closely with him on the Envision Mathematics program, which is published by Savas, which I mentioned in my introduction. I love this quote from Randy: young children think of stepped out visual solutions, so that you see one after the other, stepping out a problem, to math problems as math stories. Math stories hold children's interest and help them understand key math ideas. So there we go. We're combining stories and visual learning to teach mathematics. Very important to stop and think about this quote and think about what it means for your everyday math instruction. And Randy goes on to say, visual representations like pictures and physical objects help young children understand math problems. Children also think of pictures and physical objects as to solving math problems. Okay, so again, we've got that idea of pictures, math, and story coming together to be able to help our kids have a broader understandings of mathematical ideas. And these are from first graders. So I like these too, because I like to hear what kids have to say sometimes. And this is Katie, a first grader. I like math stories. I like math pictures, rather. They tell a math story. And Lucas, another first grader, says, pictures and blocks help me, and I use them to solve math problems. So there you go, right from the kids themselves. And so a lot of support for this idea of the importance of math and pictures and stories coming together. Now, I want to give you some classroom strategies that you might be able to use and put to work right away to help you in your math instructions, and to help pick up on this idea that I'm promoting today in my talk about links and leaps. And the first is display materials that help to identify links between math topics. So just go all the way back in your mind to that slide that I showed early on about different mathematical addition strategies like doubling and like adding on, and creating a display for your classroom, and one that can be shared with parents in a Zoom, a display that you can show and you can use that shows those links and identifies them. Hey, look, this is adding on. This is building an equation. This is regrouping. And so that children, parents can see what you're talking about when you're talking about the links across the math curriculum and the connections that can be made across the math curriculum, and then eventually bringing that to the next stage and bringing the leap from that brings you to a new idea, like the equation building, like the regrouping, like multiplication. Have students search for real life examples of connections and report on their findings to the class. And that's so important to do because the kids found it themselves. It's their information. It's what they know. It's what they bring to the discussion. And so they can go and they can count stones at a beach or along a pond or along a river and build up different addition strategies for that. They can make a little drawing of it that can be as simple as X's or little drawings of the stones. They can cut flowers in a park. They can count things at the table. Things that great fun is counting things at the table, like to make the equal sets that I talked about. Because usually when you set a table and when your child helps you set a table, there are equal sets. Everybody has the same number of things: one plate, one fork, one knife, one glass, one placemat, one napkin. And so you've got equal sets. And so for whatever number of people you have, you've got the basis for a really good step into counting activity that leads, in fact, to learning about multiplication. Great thing to be able to do at home or in the cafeteria at school or wherever you might be. Encourage students to write and illustrate stories about math. I mean, this is what I do when I visit classrooms because that's what I do. I write stories and draw pictures. They're illustrated by some great illustrators that I work with, but I write stories about math. And so I tell kids that I put pictures, words, and math together to tell a story. Why don't you try it too? I get these in the mail sometimes, and I love having them as examples of what kids do when they're encouraged to write a story and illustrate a story about math. And then, of course, I know many of you do this all the time in your classroom practice already, but grouping students to work together to create models of mathematical leaps is really great because kids don't make the same leaps at the same time. And so to have a small group of kids that are recognizing the connections that have been made, the connections that you are promoting, but then moving ahead and showing the leaps that happen, and maybe one child has gotten a leap, just like that quote I had again early on in my talk about that great leap to the idea that shows the magic of mathematics, and you see it in the eyes of the child and say, wait a minute, we don't have to do that. We can build an equation. Hey, this is almost like multiplying. This doubling stuff is almost like multiplying, and you don't even have to say it that way, just doing it. And they don't need to learn the word multiplication too soon. Doing it is better than defining it. And so I think these are 4 classroom strategies. I didn't add more. I could make a whole list of these, but let's face it, there are already plenty of these that are provided to you in the materials that are provided by the California Early Math Project, as I pointed out already. And some takeaways from this talk are these. What are links? I want to make sure I define them because it's frankly a new topic for me. And I wanted to make sure I get this defined correctly so we're all talking about the same thing. And so we need to, all of us as early math educators, need to consider the relationship between math topics as we develop our lesson plan. Making connections. I mean, I often talk about making connections across the curriculum. I talk about making connections outside of math to other topics like science or language arts or any other topic. And of course, making connections to real life. In this case, I'm talking about links between mathematical topics that relate to one another. And when we understand that relationship, we learn from it. And then when I'm talking about leaps, what I'm talking about is moving from one topic to the next. And when we move from one topic to the next, we need to help our students make sense of it all. Kind of, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? And see how one skill leads to the next and advances their understandings. And so that's what a link is in my vocabulary for this talk. And that's what a leap is in my vocabulary for this talk. And of course, I'm really hoping that you take advantage of those links and leaps in your daily practice, because you know, identifying them, first of all, identifying the links, and now this is maybe the third or fourth time I've mentioned the importance of identifying them and creating classroom examples of them and having kids go out in the world and find them, and identifying having them work with their parents and find them, identifying the links, and then taking the leaps, you know, okay, what's really happening here and how can we take advantage of this, and then finding these new understandings leads to math success. So this little diagram, this little Venn diagram, kind of serves as a visual summary of my entire talk. The identification of links, the taking the leaps, the finding the new understandings, and what we all want for our kids is math success. Now, I mentioned my 63 books, 3 levels. The first level is level 1, and these are 21 pre-K and K math stories, math in the context of stories about things kids really enjoy doing, that all supported by visual learning strategies to help you in your work. And last year, we introduced at this very conference 5 brand new books that are Spanish translations of my books. So these books are available in Spanish to you. They've been out for exactly a year now because it was at last year's symposium. And so they are available to you. They just come out then. They're easily available to you for teaching in Spanish. And I hope you'll enjoy them in your work. I already mentioned my 16 stories, which are pre-K and K stories. They are all in Spanish and in English, and they are about social, emotional, health and safety, and cognitive skills. And mentioning them at a math conference is really important because they bolster building confidence, being able to work together in groups, being able to be confident in your own work, being able to talk with adults, talk with your teachers, talk with other children. All of these skills help you to be more successful in mathematics. So it's not an isolated idea, it's an integral idea to math education. And then finally, I want to take this opportunity to introduce my new book. I've got a brand new book coming out, and it's my 80th book, so I'm very excited about it. It's available in October, so I won't talk too much about it now because you can't buy it yet. But I'm going to have chances to introduce it further at other times, closer to when it is available to you to purchase. But it's called Show and Tell. It's about graphs and smart charts. And I've been working on this book for a number of years now, and working with kids because I wanted kids to understand and be able to take advantage of the wonderful world of building infographics, because that's part of their language. And that is how they are going to get more and more information coming to them in life. And so let's start them out, just like you start children out with early language understandings. Let's start them out with early visual understandings, that language, that visual language, if you will, of how to understand charts and graphs, how to make them, how to build them, and how to use them. So what an infographic is, and what this book does, is helps you teach children how to collect data. What is data and how do you collect it? You know, how do you collect it about, of these 5 things that you like to eat, pizza, burgers, etc., which is the most popular in your group, which is the least popular? And how do you collect that data? How many kids do you ask? And then how do you organize it so that it's meaningful, so that you can see it's organized and you see that it has meaning to it? Meaningful math, as was talked about in one of the quotes earlier. And then how to present it in a dynamic way so that it communicates the point you want to make. This is what this tells you. And so that's what this book is all about. Show and tell. You'll hear more about it. So I want to thank you. And what I wanted to do, and I have done, is leave a little bit of time to see if there are any questions that people would like to ask, so that I can answer them while we're talking. And there are a couple that have come up, and I will go here to look at them. One of the questions that has come up in this talk before, and I don't see it posted here now. So I will just, in fact, I guess I didn't ask for anybody to post it Q&As, but so maybe it's my fault that I don't see them now. But anyway, a question that has come up about this talk and about what I'm talking about here is: are there lists of these things that are links? In other words, how do we find these links? Where are they? Well, I haven't created links, but they're all over the place. And so let me tell you where they are. First of all, I've mentioned, I think this is the third mention now of the materials provided to you by this very conference, the books, the book reviews, and and those identify, as I showed you twice, they identify the incredible connections between mathematics that are shown in each of the stories. Not only my stories, all the other stories that they have provided resource material for. And so that's one place. Another place is basically the educational programs that you use. All of them provide connections between mathematical ideas. I know that in the program that I'm an author on, Envision Mathematics, we take great care to show what those links are, those links in understanding that we want you to be able to make the most of in your classroom experience. So you do have the resources for them, and you do have the lists of them, and take advantage of them. You don't have to recreate them. You can always add to them, but they're really a very important part of your of your skills and of the skills that you promote to your students. The question about my books in Spanish, and will there be more of them? And I hope so. I don't write them in Spanish myself, obviously, probably. They are the books that are created in English, and they are then translated into other languages. So most of my books are in Korean, in Chinese, many of them in Spanish, some of them in Arabic, and other used by students here in this country and in different parts of the world. And the more materials that are out there in Spanish, the happier I am. And so a number of my books in both my series are indeed in Spanish. And I showed you those new ones from last year. And I hope that you will find those useful to you. Another question has come up. Are there plans to offer the books in hardcover? Actually, all my Math Start program books were first published in hardcover, and then after a period of time, the hardcover books pretty much have had their day, but the softcover books have stayed on. So maybe 3 years later, 4 years later, after they're first published, they're in hardcover. They're harder to get now in hardcover because they're not published in hardcover any longer, but they're all available. All of them are in print. All are available in paperback, and sometimes on places like Amazon and used book places, you can still get them in hardcover. And my new book will be published in hardcover and softcover right from the start. And so I hope that helps to answer that question. There's a question also about this presentation that relates to the fact that I've intentionally kind of mixed the notions of visual learning and storytelling and this links and leaps, and so there's a lot going on there. And then you add in the parental aspect of it, the parental engagement aspect of it, and I'm afraid I'm a little bit on overload sometimes. But the fact is, they all come together in a very important way. And just think, like I did with the Fair Bear Share, that when I didn't read the story word for word, you may have noticed that I didn't want to take the time to do it. I did enough to get the storybook idea across to you. And I think you can see just by looking at that reading of that story that all these things do come together. A parent could read that story to a child. You could read it in your classroom. A librarian could read it. You could read it on a virtual session, and engage children in the story and get them involved in the story. And there are all sorts of hints in the materials that I cited as how to approach that in the best possible way, how to make the most use of that. And then that idea of the visual learning models that are provided in the stories that are critical to being able to show the math in the story. And you combine that with the storyline itself, and the storyline being about something kids can relate to and understand. And then you combine that with showing the links that I'm talking about and being able to identify those links. And all those things come together very easily and very naturally because they're all part of our early childhood math instruction. And so this is very critical, very important. And I hope that has helped to answer that question. And someone has asked, what is the resource link? I think if I understand that question correctly, the resource link, let's see, I think the resource link comes in the resources provided to you by the Early Math program. So there are links to all of those books. You're going to have a recording of this entire session, so that's going to be very helpful to you, and that'll be a resource link to you. I hope I'm answering that question correctly, so you know where to go, Maria. I think that it is important for you to know where to go after this, and so as you listen to the resources being described to you today, and not only in this session but in the other session, I think you'll find the links that you need to be able to get back to that information and find what you're looking for. And so we just have a very few minutes left, and I think I've covered the questions that have come up. There are a couple that are similar, so I think I've covered the questions that have come up. So I think what I'd like to do is kind of end with not just a review, but a push to you all, because I know that by being here today, you're dedicated early math educators, and I do know that you're hearing some very exciting sessions, like the one I cited already on parental engagement that preceded my session. I know there's some great stuff yet to come, and so I just want to encourage you to stick with it and take full advantage of this incredible opportunity that's being provided to you. It's a great symposium, and lots of good ideas are being expressed, and I think that it's a wonderful chance for you to expand your the great work that you're already doing, and so have fun with it, and bring that creativity element into your thinking as well. I do a whole session on creativity in math that I didn't hit upon very much today. I was too busy with my links and leaps, but I think helping your kids do math journals that show that they're creative about their math and how they might want to show something. I talk about seeing the math, how they might want to show something, show what they're doing, show something that's important to them, what they might want to share with their parents and show what's important about math. And back to helping those parents, because you all know that parents have been put into a unique situation during the pandemic, and that continues of sometimes having to augment the teaching, be part of the math teaching, and so many of them need support in that work. They're not used to doing it. It's not part of what they are trained to do. And the more help as math educators, as early childhood math teachers, that you can give them, the more you can shore up their confidence, the more you can give them ideas about what they can do to help you spread the word and make their kids successful in math, the better off we're all going to be. And so congratulations on your excellent work. And I am going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to wish you all a happy, happy day. And thank you for attending my session. I really appreciate it.
I think you can end.
I think I can. Okay. Everything go okay?
Perfectly. It was delightful.
Okay, good. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye, Stuart.
Bye-bye.